Route 616, your home for all things Marvel main continuity. Hello, everybody. This is Ryan slash RJ or RJ Evergreen here, and welcome back to Route 616. We are back with episode 7. I'm here with Dan and Apple Juice hater Bill.
I do hate apple juice.
I'm gonna try
Can't
to.
be impossible, man, but we'll cover that later.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to stay professional during this podcast because
Me too,
I love
because-
apple juice.
And you know what else I hate? Raisins in everything.
Okay,
Oh my
well I agree
God.
with that.
Who puts raisins in bread? What kind of anarchy are you living with? That you go and buy a loaf of bread and it's got fucking raisins in it. I mean, come on, people. Come on, Trump's
well,
not
we'll let the
president anymore.
The
Get back to
curmudgeonly old
normality.
man- While the curmudgeonly old man gets going, why don't we start on Strange Tales?
Oh, yes. So today's lineup, we have Strange Tales 105, we have Journey in the Mystery 89, we have Fantastic Four 11, both stories. We have Tales to Astonish 40, and we have Strange Tales 106. How lucky of us, we have 2 Strange Tales issues in this one.
Yay!
So let's get started. I'm going to take the first Strange Tales.
You can have it.
Yeah, I figured you'd feel that way. Don't worry, you're gonna get the last one. So let's us get started as I open up the comic on Marvel Unlimited. So this one is called The Return of the Wizard.
Bum, bum, bum.
A solid 2-star overall. That's being generous, as we'll get into. Stanley, Stan, and Larry's with Stan on writing. We have Jack Kirby, of course. Dick Geyers is here. Only on inks apparently, and Artie Simic's here to letter. Release date of November 1962, and this will be a 13-page story. Let's see if it feels like it's more than that. So, honestly, pretty unremarkable cover to begin with, so I'm just not even gonna spend time on that. But we open up with Human Torch ignited, flying around as the wizard's like, "You were a fool to accept my challenge, Torch. You're in my trap, and now you'll never leave." So we at the start of the issue after that, we get a recap on the previous encounter of the wizard with the Human Torch, and then we learn here that the wizard has been in jail since that occasion. But we quickly see that he's been planning an escape. He's been planning for escape, and within like a page, we see him break out completely.
That's what they get for trusting a super genius with chemicals.
Yeah, that they brought it on themselves.
I mean, I doubt his claims of being a genius, given the number of wizard stories I've read and the fact that he routinely gets beaten by Johnny Storm. But he claims to be a genius at least. That should be enough to keep him away from dangerous chemicals.
Yeah, honestly, getting beaten by Johnny Storm so many times should kind of disqualify him, but oh well. But then we see Johnny and Sue standing in front of the TV as a report of the wizard's escape. No, it's actually talking about how the wizard challenges the Human Torch, and that's what they're watching. Excuse me.
Yeah, he's already escaped and protected his house from the police with plastic wrap.
Yes. Pretty impressive. Maybe
It's
he is a
apparently a
genius.
force field, but it gives and certainly looks like plastic wrap in the image.
Yeah, maybe he is a genius after all. Anyways, Sue is like not gonna let Johnny tackle him this time on his own, since Sue is actually the one that beat the wizard last time. But Johnny's like, "Oh, screw that, I'm leaving," and makes a fire duplicate to trick Sue so he can leave. And it doesn't really trick Sue for long, as she immediately goes to talk to him again, and no response, so she figures it out right away that Johnny's going after the wizard. So Sue then calls up the other Fantastic Two, Reed and the Thing, and he's like, "You must help Reed." It's like, "No, Sue, Johnny has to grow up and stand on his own 2 feet someday, so we're not getting involved."
Thing just needs to stay and eat his cake.
Yep.
Okay.
So Johnny storms on his own. We see him get to the wizard's house, and he gets inside. And the wizard tries to hit him with a big a bullet from this wild gun he's created, and Johnny Storm melts it. But he's like, so the wizard's like, so you're invulnerable to artillery, are you? but don't worry, you won't be gloating for long because I'm gonna make you fall down this trapdoor into a room full of asbestos. So that's what happens. And we see a gun shooting out nerve gas, that's what it is, from the wall. I haven't read this comic in a while. And so Johnny Storm is momentarily taken care of. Although he does protect himself from the nerve gas by a whole bubble/shield fin of fire. It's a pretty weird image.
I feel like most of this comic just exists to remind new readers what Johnny's power does.
And to make up more of what it can do. So Sue Storm arrives, but the wizard sprays her with a special invention of his, which makes her lose her invisibility. Yes, that's what happens. So I had to actually figure out if that's what happens, or I was making shit up.
It's not real clear. He just sprays her with his special spray he has invented, and then she's visible.
Yeah, and Sue's like, oh, he was prepared for me. I've blundered into a trap. And then the walls rise up around Sue, and she's trapped all around by walls. So, but then Johnny breaks out of, where he was. And and then the wizard's like, oh, your female partner, the Invisible Girl's trapped within these walls. So immediately, for some reason, Johnny loses his flame and is like, is trying to get the Sue, but the wizard traps Johnny and throws him into the room with Sue. And then he reveals that there is a bomb attached to a hammer and bell device, and if the temperature in the room increases by 1 whole degree, the hammer will hit the bell and detonate the bomb. So Johnny is in a bit of a pickle here. But they just say fuck it almost right away, and Johnny still lights his hand on fire and manages to melt the melt the trigger around the hammer before it can hit the bell. So good trap, wizard. And then we see them put he makes a catapult of flame. And puts the bomb inside of it and shoots it away, and we see it explode in the sky. Fuck, this sucks.
How very Green Lantern of him.
Yeah,
oh my
they're
god.
really trying to make Johnny into Green Lantern here.
Oh
You're
my
not
god,
wrong.
that's actually what this is.
Yeah, they're trying to write Green Lantern.
I can't believe I didn't make that connection before. Holy shit.
It's obvious to me, but
It's totally what they're doing. They're trying to make him Green Lantern.
Oh, so Johnny melts through the wall, then we see he burns some fire alarm thermostats, but it triggers the sprinkler system, blah blah, which is part of Johnny's plan because the wizard, brilliant guy, slips all over the water that Johnny makes come down. And then the wizard goes to fire a weapon at him, but Johnny burns the bullet or whatever comes out. The bolt, it might be a bolt.
He doesn't get to shoot. Johnny makes a saw of fire and saws a hole in the ceiling, and then the ceiling falls on the wizard and knocks him out.
Oh yeah, that's
and it's not a power saw. It's a hand saw that Johnny doesn't operate. It just cuts on its own.
Yeah,
Do
that's
I
my
have to
bad.
say it a second time?
That's my bad, yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I should have completely knew that one. And then
It's the worst use of fire for me. I found that one particularly offensive.
Certainly up there. I'm starting to remember why I've blocked out this issue. We see moments later that Johnny has thrown I hate this guy. He's thrown a lasso of flame around the wizard to contain him. But the cops have come and say they'll handle it from here. So the wizard has been caught once again, and we see Johnny race Sue home, and the issue ends with them at their cottage. And she was like, "You deliberately disobeyed orders by tackling the wizard by yourself. Reed will be furious. It's a lucky Finn I went after you to help you." And Johnny's like, "Sure, sure." And he turns into a dick here and he's like, "A little more help like that and I'd have been cooked." So
I'm telling Mom.
Sue rightfully throws something at his head and she's like, "Take that, you ungrateful little beast." Yeah.
I
Poor
think
Sue.
that was supposed to be just siblings joking around. I don't think he was supposed to be serious about. Like,
Oh yeah, it was definitely just siblings joking around. I just like to shit on Johnny Storm wherever I can. Ta-da! That was Strange Tales 105. Anyways, that's a 1-star comic. Fuck that comic.
It was a 1-star comic, especially because what the fuck was up with the art in this? I mean, I've been critical of Jack Kirby's art in the past, but there is something seriously wrong with so many of the faces in this issue.
Yeah, I didn't even comment on the air. Honestly, I think I was so caught up in being offended by the terrible uses of fire in this that I just ignored it.
Like, Jack must have whipped this up in a weekend.
It could have been. I
Could
have
have very
a
well
feeling,
been the case.
just looking at what they were sort of churning out at this point, I mean, his hands must have hurt.
Yeah,
You
he
know,
drew
I mean,
pretty much everything.
and there's no way your creativity isn't going to really start to sort of fizzle
No.
out. You're
Like I
going to
said,
just
this
start
is-
repeating panels for different stories.
Yeah. Like I said, this is totally a 1-star comic, but I think the point of it was really just to be a recap of what Johnny can do, because this was peak. They're trying to make him Green Lantern.
Yeah.
And so they wanted to remind people who back then couldn't really get back issues that he can melt projectiles, he can burn through walls, he can catch only part of his body on fire, he can make things out of fire. Thank God they gave up on that power. And so this was really just a story for them to kind of run through each of his powers and have him easily beat Wizard with each one of his powers, just to kind of remind the reader of what all his powers are.
And the wizard was the biggest villain he had yet, and it made sense to bring him back. And so yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I see what they were doing. That didn't make it any more pleasant to read.
Oh no, that I see what they were doing doesn't mean it wasn't shit.
Oh yeah, it was still a 1-star comic for me too. This was just painful.
Yeah, this really was painful.
At least it was a fast read.
Well, I don't know why I made myself go through that one, but here we are. Any more thoughts on Strange Tales 105?
It shouldn't exist.
There we go. That's a pretty good note to end on, really. On that note, Journey in the Mystery number 89 is next up, and I'm going to let Bill handle this one.
All right. This is Journey into Mystery 89, The Thunder God and the Thug, by Stan Lee and Larry Lieber, art by Jack Kirby, inked by Dick Ayers, and lettered by Ray Holloway.
It's a nice cover.
It is good.
It is a pretty good one.
I like that cover.
Honestly, a lot of Thor covers are pretty good in this early stretch. This honestly could be one of the weaker ones, actually.
Yeah, I'd agree.
And it's still really good.
They were killing it with the covers right now.
Yeah, I like the simplicity of it, actually, to be completely honest. It's not too busy.
Yeah, and you know exactly what it's about.
Yeah, I find at this era, a lot of the covers are just so busy. It's like, a Tiger magazine. Right? There's so much crap on the cover. It's just like, what's going on?
Yeah, you just need an image that when people are looking at the newsstand, they see the character they want to buy and buy it. You have them doing something interesting on the cover.
Yeah.
And this one's perfect because it's Thor. It's obviously Thor, and he's whirling his hammer, so there's something dynamic happening.
Yeah, see the heroic Thunder Guard battle the forces of evil. Bada bing, bada boom. No, seriously, I like it.
I know, I'm just laughing because I know what happens in the issue. So.
Yes, the issue does not deserve this cover.
No, it actually doesn't.
Fair enough, but I figured I'd throw that out there. I do like the cover.
No, it is a really good cover. Anyway, we start with Thor flying past on his way back to his office, but there are a ton of people outside of his office, so he has to figure out how to get in without people realizing that Thor and Don Blake are the same people. Fortunately, well up on a neighboring skyscraper is a warehouse full of mannequins. So he breaks in, makes a replica costume on one of the mannequins, and throws it as hard as he can in the opposite direction. And then when everyone's looking at that, he sneaks in behind them into the office and turns into Don Blake.
Is that another Wile E. Coyote moment, isn't it?
You know what? We can joke about that moment and everything, but it's literally the best part of the issue.
It really is. I especially like the panel of Jane and two random businessmen staring at the fake Thor flying off while real Thor is sneaking in through the window behind them. Because he's drawn so he looks about 6 inches tall.
Yeah, Thor is the best Jack Kirby drawn comic at this point.
Yeah, like that's actually a really funny moment. And then they give us a recap of Thor's origin. And we get a whole page of Jane fantasizing about being in a relationship with Thor and polishing his hammer and ironing his cloak and cutting his hair.
I knew that was going to get a good reaction from Dan. Oh, my God.
Oh, Thor, can I polish your hammer? Come.
Yeah. She's dressed like a French maid while she's doing it, too. I just noticed that. I skimmed over the art on that one, but she's actually dressed like a French maid.
Oh, hold on. I have tears in my eyes from that. Oh, my God. Wow. Oh, my good Lord.
And because Jack Kirby is good with faces, when she's cut Thor's hair, he's just Steve Rogers. It's just Steve Rogers wearing a Thor costume.
Oh, this is wrong on so many levels.
Yes. This is the good part of the comic, Dan.
Oh, God.
Anyway, we learned
Can we
that,
just stop here and call it a day?
I'd like to,
so
but I don't
goodness.
think Ryan will let me back on the podcast if I do.
Okay, fair enough.
Anyway, we cut back to reality where infamous mob leader Thug Thatcher is being loaded into into a police car. Because he's been arrested for selling substandard steel to construction sites. And his mob ram a truck into the police car to free him, and there's a big shootout right outside of Don Blake's office.
Obviously, the police car was made out of substandard steel.
Of course. Thatcher gets shot, and two of his goons realize that they need to get him to a doctor. Fortunately, they see the note for Don Blake, so they bust into the office with guns and kidnap him and drive him far away to the hideout where Thug Thatcher has somehow appeared. They never explain how he got there. He was just in the shootout and got shot. And then they went and got Don Blake, and now he's in a hideout miles away. And they want Don to operate on him and save his life. And they take Don's stick, so he'll have walking stick, so he'll have both his hands free. And Don operates on Thug and saves him. And then they're going to kill Don, so he can't report where they are.
I wonder.
So Don.
Sorry, I wonder if Jane's thinking
Dan.
about. I wonder if Jane's thinking about polishing Don's cane. You know.
Oh, probably.
You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm done.
Anyway,
Sorry.
Don thinks really hard and contacts Odin, who shoots down a fire lightning bolt that hits the Thug in the hand and makes him drop the cane, so Don can grab it and hit it on the ground, turn into Thor. And all the guys are like, "Hey, it's Thor. Where'd the dog go?" And Thor's like, I threw him really far that way. And so Thor proceeds to beat up all the thugs. And then Thatcher and his girlfriend try to escape in his car. So Thor throws his hammer through a whole row of trees that fall on top of the car. And so they get out and they start walking back to the city for safety. And they go to Don Blake's office and kidnap Jane. And Thor busts in and drops his hammer because they'll kill Jane if he doesn't. But then he uses his power of super ventriloquism to convince them to look in the opposite direction. So he grabs his hammer again and beats them up. He creates a whirlwind to launch Jane out of the building so that she'll be safe. And then he flies after her and catches her and deposits her on a neighboring roof. He goes back to get Thug and his girlfriend. Thug flees into a construction site. And Thor starts shooting lightning bolts in the near area around him until he finds this bucket of like super hot rivets that he's going to pour on the crowd that's looking on. And so Thor stops shooting lightning bolts at him. But then he's climbed into one of the construction sites that bought his shitty steel. So the beam breaks. He starts to fall. Thor flies up and catches him, hands him off to the police, and then removes the memory of Thug Thatcher from his girlfriend so that she'll be able to love someone worthy of her. And he flies away, and we're left with the promise that next time we see him, he'll be facing the carbon copy man. So things are going to get worse before they get better.
Oh, dear.
Also,
God.
I'd like to point out that the beam doesn't just break. Thor shoots it with lightning.
He was shooting at it earlier, but then he stopped because he realized that it was one of the shitty beams and it would break on its own.
Yeah.
He actually mentions that.
Yeah, that's why he has to go up to catch him after. Oh, this story is actually kind of hilarious.
No,
I
it's
gave
not.
it 2 stars. It wasn't nearly as bad as the Strange Tales we just read, but it's still pretty awful.
It's
Yeah.
horrible.
It's 2-star comic. If
If
it was written as a
5 or 6
comedy,
Yeah, if it was 5 or 6 pages long, it could be really good, but everything just gets stretched. Like, you've got the whole filler of his origin story. They've got like 6 pages of him beating up various goons that aren't superpowered and have no chance against him. It's just twice as long as it needs to be.
I'd say it's 13 pages too long.
That's a fair assessment. I
Yeah.
won't argue that. If you're going to do this story, it could have worked at 6, but
Oh,
it
this
didn't
is
need to
horrible.
happen.
This was just horrible.
the
If
best
they'd
part
done
of it,
this, if they'd done this in the 40s, it would have been great.
Yeah.
You know, it would have meant something. But this is just wow. No, thank you, no.
I mean, this is
The be-
December. They were probably extra pinched trying to do Christmas stuff. That's probably why the comics for this month are so bad.
So in
'Cause
other
just
words,
about everything.
this was our lump of coal.
More like they were trying to get everything done in 2 weeks so they could fuck off and have a Christmas vacation.
I suppose.
the best part about this issue is that Thug Thatcher next appears in Thor number 368, and Ruby appears in Thor number 369. So this isn't their only appearances.
Oh, goody.
Oh, don't worry. When they return, it's not better.
How did they get past this era and still have a business?
Because DC wasn't producing anything better at this time.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, DC in the
that's
60s.
entirely fair. Yeah.
Have you like?
DC was mired deep in Supergirl and crap like that.
Do we have to talk about 60s Batman?
Do not go there.
I'm not even talking about like the show. I'm talking about fully the comics here too.
60s Batman
Oh
was
yeah,
not
when
that
he
bad.
gets like zebra powers and stuff.
Isn't
and
it doesn't he get zebra shit and
No,
then he
he
gets
gets-
rainbow shit and
He gets bat zebra
Was
powers.
that-
Yeah, like this was the late 50s when they were like fully into the sci-fi stuff.
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
50s then whatever. Do we have any
Wow.
more thoughts on that Journey in the Mystery issue?
It sounded
I
horrible.
prefer to never think about it again.
It was horrible.
Well, on that note, let's move on to Fantastic Four number 11, the B story, and I'm taking this one. And the story is called The Impossible Man. This is the one we've all been waiting for.
Bum, bum, bum.
That we must, we could just, this should technically be the main event, but here we are. We got Stan Lee and Jack Kirby.
Of course.
They
This
guys
is the
sinking.
closest thing to a real story we'll cover today. I will admit that.
Stan Goldberg's on colors and cover, and letters by Artie Simic. And funnily enough, this is one of the few occasions that the B story is actually the fin they put on the cover. As we are introduced,
Well, the A story isn't really a story, let's be honest.
I'm
I
waiting.
think that's why. What, Dan?
Oh, nothing. Nothing at all.
I think that's why they put it in the order they do on the site here for us to read B first, because it's like the main story technically.
I'm guessing there was something in there that I haven't caught that actually resulted in them ordering this way, or someone's actually ordered it, because normally we go publication order if there's no compelling evidence to change it.
Mm-hmm.
So, because the order isn't primarily based on like quality, it's based on readability, and it's easier to read the A story before the B story. So
Yeah.
there must be something that I just haven't picked up on that puts this one first chronologically.
Yeah, I mean, I also read them A to B regularly when I was reading them, so.
Yeah, I don't see
didn't
a
really
reason,
matter.
but yeah, I don't see a reason for this one, but I'm sure there is one, because otherwise, just knowing how it's traditionally ordered, it would be A and B.
Yeah, we're just going to follow the order because that's what we're doing with this whole podcast. This one was released in November, so we're still jumping back and forth a little bit on the months, so, but here we are. But we are in the middle of the whole issue as a whole, and we have a page that shows the Impossible Man jumping through a beam, as we have the Fantastic Four each in their own little bubble, talking about how he's the most dangerous creature in the galaxy, and this is what Reed says. Johnny's like, he even laughs at my flame. And Ben's like, if we can't clobber him, who can? And Sue's like, he looks so humorous. How can he be such a menace? And so we have a message that at last the Fantastic Four meet a foe whose power is even greater than theirs. Here is the Impossible Man. So,
From the planet pop-up.
yes,
It's an open book. Get it? Get
We-
it? Good joke.
the Impossible Man appears in front of a group of hobos out of nowhere, announcing he's from the planet Pop-Up, as Stan said. And Impossible Man's like, man, I'm so hungry after my long journey. May I have some of your food? And so the hobo's like, listen, I don't know what you're up to here, but you don't just get... we don't like freeloaders, no matter where they come from. So I think that was some kind of social commentary from Stan there. But,
Stan was pretty conservative at this time in his life. He was not big on hobos.
So, one of the hobos mentions how you need cold hard cash to pay for food, and so Impossible Man's like, cash? What a strange word. What is this cash? So they're like, oh, cash is kept in a bank, mister. So Impossible Man turns into a rocket and flies over to a bank. He, out of nowhere, gets into the bank vault where a teller is working, counting money, and Impossible Man's like, salutations, Mr. Banker. I've come for some cash, and the bank's like, good grief, what are you doing here? The vault is still locked. And on this panel as well, we get the lovely note that that Bill pointed out to us in the group chat the other day. That is an editor's note that says, by now you're probably thinking that Stan and Jack have flipped their lids. But wait, things may get even wackier.
Now,
dear.
as someone who's read a lot more of the order, these notes turn up periodically, and what they really mean is, look, guys, we know this is shit, but we're hitting our deadline, so this is what you get.
So we see Impossible Man pop. You'll see the onomatopoeia of pop a lot here. The sound bracket pop, whatever they're called. But he turns into a little like ant-sized almost creature. And then he pops back to his large size, and he grabs wads and wads of cash and throws them in some bags. And then cops try to shoot him because is making away with the cash, but then he changes his body to a different substance to it's a sheet of bulletproof steel apparently. How perfect. He just happened to know to turn into that. So yeah, he takes the bullets like they're nothing. And Impossible Man's like, whoa, what an amusing planet. There seems to be something going on every minute. And he's like, female Earthling. How adorable you are. And she runs away. We see, after some time, a deputy police inspector activates a special screen, and they contacted the Fantastic Four, and they asked the Fantastic Four to take care of the Impossible Man. So they promised to do that, and they find the Impossible Man sitting down in a restaurant and eating a shitload of food, and he, as the Fantastic Four confront him, he is just sitting there eating a watermelon. So they ask why he's trying to take money from the bank without a withdrawal slip, and then Finn's threatening to beat him up, so... And then we get the Impossible Man's origins here, and we get some backstory on how life is on his planet. He mentions how the Earthlings have such a colorful language. And he explains how he's from Pop-Up, and he goes into it. He says how he wanted to take a vacation to Earth. He explains how the population can change their body substance or whatever to any type of different material or substance. So that is our explanation for the story. So he explains how he turned himself into a rocket and made his way to Earth. Finn goes to punch him after Impossible Man is like, oh, why didn't they stop me if I wasn't supposed to do that? And then he turns a porcupine type substance, and Finn takes the needles to his hand. Then Johnny Flames On tries to do shit to Impossible Man, but Impossible Man turns into a bubble where he then bursts water all over Human Torch, which is actually incredible. We then have Reed try to use his powers, but Impossible Man just turns to a little fin that flies away, and then Sue turns invisible, so helpful. And Impossible Man bounces off of Sue, not seeing her, but then he turns into a ton of flowers that fall off, and he forms into a body of flowers before turning back to his regular self. We then see him turn into an asbestos-bladed buzzsaw, where he cuts through the restaurant that they're in. So now he's full on going into property destruction. He goes out and he wants a taxi that's come out, and he turns into this monster to scare the cab away. I think he was trying to get a drive away, but they wouldn't take him, so he just scared the guy away. Then the Impossible Man is suddenly now driving the taxi. Keep in mind he's not from Earth. And the Fantastic Four are following in the Fantastic car, so we now have a chase. And Finn jumps out and grabs the back of the car to stop the Impossible Man. So Impossible Man comes out, and Finn tries to grab him, but he pops once again. So he's too heavy to pick up. So Impossible Man is now Mjolnir.
Mew Mew.
And the military now shows up, and Reed's like, listen to me. You can call him the most dangerous living creature on Earth, and all your weapons will be powerless against him. And then Impossible Man turns into a bomb, and they disperse, but Reed takes him up in the air in bomb form, and Impossible Man explodes, but that doesn't mean he's dead, as he flies down with some new wings, and he glides down from the atmosphere. So Johnny has an idea. He makes a cyclone of... Jesus Christ, there's so much that happens in 11 pages here. Well, Johnny Flames On flies around in a fucking hypnotic pattern, so Impossible Man will lose consciousness, which actually works. And Impossible Man passes out. And but they come to check on him, making sure he's alright. So Impossible Man's like, I knew it, you do like me. And then he starts laughing like a little kid. And then Finn's like, okay, time to pulverize him, but Reed's like, oh no, stop it, I know exactly what to do here, and don't question it. We are gonna ignore the Impossible Man. We're just gonna turn around and walk away from him. Just continue to ignore him. Which they do, and yes, this is literally how they defeat the Impossible Man, as Reed informs everybody to just ignore him and let the Impossible Man do whatever he wants. So they defeat the Impossible Man by making him so bored from not interacting with him at all. So then he leaves and goes back to the planet Pop-Up. The end.
Well,
Yeah, how exactly did you think this was good?
So anyways, this is a 5-star story.
It is not.
it's
Don't listen to him.
impossible. It's impossible.
This is firmly into 1-star territory.
Oh my! Here we go.
Dan, I guess you're the tiebreaker.
No, you don't want me to be the tiebreaker. Okay. Point number 1. If Johnny can hypnotize people and make them fall asleep simply by flying around a little pinwheel, why doesn't he use that against every supervillain? Okay. You know, because that's a pretty effective way to stop all kinds of really bad shit. So that alone takes a star away. Because they're not going to use it again, right?
Yeah, plus it's not really entertaining to have a story where the heroes win by doing nothing.
Yeah, the villains are always asleep. Right? Yeah, because the letterer can only get so excited about constantly writing Z. Right? Anyway. Okay. 2, this is another Human Torch trying to be Green Lantern. That takes a star away. This is a villain that's just pointless because he's not really a villain. He's just an idiot. Right? He steals money, but not because he's bad, because he doesn't know he's not supposed to.
Exactly. That's why I like. That's part of why I like
the villain.
He doesn't know any better. He's from a different planet.
He's Great Kazoo from friggin' Flintstones.
Yeah, I'd argue this would be good if they did it now.
This would be good if they hadn't done it.
If they did a version of this now where it just completely subverts the superhero tropes, it could work. Like they win by not fighting the guy, and he's not really a villain. That sort of thing could work. The problem is, for a lot of the people reading it, they've only had 10 superhero comics.
Yeah, he'd be a great villain for Doctor Strange.
11. Yeah, this is issue number 11. You don't subvert the tropes before you've really established them.
I'm going to break kayfabe a little here, and I will admit, objectively, this is a pretty shitty issue. I just had a lot of fun reading it. So that's why I half-jokingly give it 5 stars.
Yeah, I give it a good solid 2. Because the villain at least looks cool.
Yeah.
I think this would be objectively better of a story if it was more of a social commentary, because there's hints of possible brilliance in there. With, like, if it was made more of a commentary of him being an alien and the differences and blah, blah, it could be a little better. I think.
But they just use it as an excuse for him to do wacky shit for the sake of doing wacky shit.
Yeah.
However, Bill, Ryan does have a point.
His powers are hilarious, so.
Ryan is right in one sense, because apparently, according to the cover, this is a collector's item issue. So it's got to be 5 stars.
That's because they put 2 stories in it.
It's an almost 3-star average book. It's a 2.80.
Yeah, and no one gave it 3 stars. That's the hilarious thing.
No, it's either
pretty much
people
firmly
hate
split
this or people
between
love
1 star and 5 stars.
It's literally me and Bill. It's either they're on Bill's side or they're on my side. That's
no one gives this 3 stars, but it averages out to 3. It's actually kind of funny.
This is this is the most divisive story we've covered so far.
I think it might be the most divisive story in the entire order. I'm not even joking. Usually, the majority of the ratings are somewhere around the average. This one has no 3-star ratings.
That's great.
But I don't really have much to add. I had a whole rant prepared on how bad why the Impossible Man was bad, and then Dan took it.
Sorry.
That's quite all right, but you made basically the same points I made about, Hero's not doing anything. He's just doing crazy stuff for the sake of doing crazy stuff.
Yeah.
There's no real stakes because he's not dangerous. He's just annoying.
Yeah, and I mean, any superhero could have taken him out. The Fantastic Four didn't do anything that plays to their strengths in this. You know?
Yeah.
No, they all dealt with it really dumb until Reed's like, you know what? If we ignore him, he'll just go away.
Yeah.
And then there's literally 2 pages of people ignoring him.
For God's sakes, a second-rate superhero like Spider-Man could have taken this guy out.
Don't start.
You notice how I snuck that in there when you were both not paying attention?
The thing is, I almost made the joke myself just so you wouldn't, and I felt it was coming, but I was going to turn the joke into an Ant-Man joke, but I left it alone.
Yeah.
I was going to say, do you think Ant-Man could have figured that one out, but I just left it alone. And here we are with your Spider-Man jab.
Hey, I'm telling you.
I blame
Better
myself
do something
for it,
until
honestly.
Spider-Man starts turning up in the order.
Oh, you just wait.
2 issues.
You just wait. My day is coming. It's coming. I can feel it.
2 episodes away.
Spider-Man tasks me, and I shall have him.
All right, Norman.
Just saying.
On that note, I suppose we should move on to the A story, which actually has a lower average rating than the last story.
Yeah, because the general consensus is the A story's bad. Some people like the B story.
Oh, fuck, this is great.
I legitimately don't understand how they could. Like, even after you've said it, I don't get enjoying this story at all, but...
Yeah. Obviously, this is all the same team. Oh, I guess I didn't mention one thing for the B story. I want to see, where are you here? So, Impossible Man's next appearance is Fantastic Four number 175, so we have to wait a while. How unfortunate. But now to the A story. Of course, it's the same creative team. I'm going to let Bill take this one. The story is called A Visit with the Fantastic Four. Off we go.
Also known as we couldn't come up with a really good idea for a story, so this is what you get.
Well, it's more than that. This is their chance to be passive-aggressive about people complaining that Sue's useless.
Oh, I suppose. Yeah, that's fair.
That's actually the point of this story.
It literally is, yeah.
It opens and we've got a whole line of people excited because the new issue of Fantastic Four is coming out.
Oh, goody.
And we've got people cosplaying as the Fantastic Four, kids cosplaying as the Fantastic Four, but really, really shittily. Like, one kid's got gloves stuck on the end of boards that he's pretending to be Mr. Fantastic with, and one kid's just jumping around with sparklers pretending to be the Human Torch. And then the kid
Welcome to the 60s.
pretending to be Sue is just hiding behind a pole. And then the Thing one has actually put the most effort in because he's got a mask and he's shoved pillows into his sweater. But they all show up and they all show their real powers to the kids. And then they go back to the Baxter building and they meet Willie Lumpkin, who is actually a returning character, the mailman, who's bringing a giant bag of mail for them. And they take their mail, they show off how their elevator works. I believe it's already been shown at this point. And they go up and they start opening their mail. The Thing gets a package from the the Yancey Street Gang. I almost blanked on the name there. That punches him in the face, and he gets mad and smashes it. And then they try another serum that turns him human for a little bit. Johnny leaves to go work on his hot rod. They reminisce about how their time in college. This is the time we learned that Ben was Reed's roommate, and that's how they met, and Ben was a football star. And that's really all we get out of that. And then we get that we get what they both did in the war, with Ben being a fighter pilot and Reed being on the ground working for OSS, which is the early form of the CIA. And one significant feature, this comic features the first black person of the Order in that panel of Reed in the OSS.
Ski whoa.
I noticed that when I was rereading this. It's the first time they've actually had a black person in there.
Well, that's wild. I didn't even realize that until you just pointed it out.
I'm pretty sure it's the guy from the Howlers, whose name I forget. Gabe,
yeah.
I haven't actually read the Howler comics, so. But anyway, and then they reminisce about how they launched into space and got doused with the gamma rays, got all their powers, the same stuff we've seen 5 times in 11 comics. And then they start reading some of the mail, which has upset Sue, because they keep getting the letters that are about how useless Sue is, and how she never does anything, and why is she in the comic. And so Reed goes on a big rant about Abe Lincoln having made a remark about his mother.
Abe
and
Lincoln?
How he said that, yeah.
Abe Lincoln?
Yeah, apparently he made a famous quote that's not that famous because I've never heard it, but he said that all that he ever hoped to be, he owed to her. And so they go on a big passive-aggressive rant about how if this was in a comic about Abe Lincoln and Abe Lincoln's mom was in it, people would go like, why is she here? She doesn't do anything. And then they mentioned like 2 times Sue was actually useful. And then Ben turns back into the thing. They hear an alarm from down in the garage. They go running down, and Johnny has prepared a birthday cake for Sue.
Aww.
And then we end with Willie Lumpkin coming with the next bag of fan letters for the Fantastic Four, and that's the end of the story.
Yay.
So yeah, this was 2 stars just because they did have some interesting revelations about their time before they were Fantastic Four.
I gave it 3. I don't really know why, I just did. I think I really liked seeing the pieces of the origin, knowing a lot of the different Fantastic Four origins. That was kind of cool for me to see. And I think I like that they acknowledged the issue of Sue, even if they did it in a bad way, technically.
I like that going forward, they start trying to address it and start making her more useful. I did not like how they handled it here, where they were just like super passive-aggressive.
It's very
and snappy to the audience that were like, why are we wasting time on a character that never does anything? And they just give them this passive-aggressive rant about how she's there for moral support, basically. And the whole thing just really rubbed me the wrong way, because none of it actually justifies Sue's presence on her own. It's entirely about the effect Sue has on the men. Like, it's not that she's there because she's good and capable on her own. She's there because she's important to the men.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know if there's much more to say.
Kind of a pointless...
No, it's not really a story.
No, it's propaganda.
Yeah, it's them addressing letters that were annoying them, and them filling in a little bit of backstory. That's really all it was.
To be fair, I guess it was probably necessary. You know, don't want to like it, but it probably needed to be
If we
done.
were reading it at the time, we probably would have really liked it a lot.
No, we wouldn't have.
No, I don't think I would have. It was not good. I probably would have cared more about the backstory stuff.
Well, I don't think you guys would have been reading Fantastic Four anyway. I guess
The
it's-
Order
would
is the first time I've ever actually read Fantastic Four.
I probably would have been reading it. I'm probably the only one here that would have been reading it. So.
Yeah. To be honest, of everything you guys have covered, Thor's the only one I would have read.
No, you said you would have read Hulk last week.
Well, yes and no. It's not that
Then
I
we described issue 5.
Then
Yeah.
he's like, oh no, I wouldn't have read. I would have dropped it. No.
No, that's the thing, though. Like, the Hulk, the stories are so bad. He's such a great character, but they didn't really do anything with him. And by the 5th issue, I would have been just sick of it.
Yeah.
I would have been.
Yeah, you and me both, brother.
Right?
Oh, yeah, reading issue 5 was a real chore.
Yeah, I may as well be reading.
If I hadn't decided to do this project, I would have stopped reading that issue.
Anyways, good time to shout out episode 6 of Route 616 if you haven't seen it yet. Go back and listen.
Okay, that's shameless. But yeah, go to episode 6 of
I
Route
respect the
616.
cheap plug.
Yep, that's good. That's good. Well done.
I had to. Anyways, I guess we'll move on to Tales to Astonish, issue number 40. Another comic I don't remember. Actually, no, that's a lie. Actually, now that I looked at this cover again, I remember what happens in this one.
This is easily the best comic we're going to cover today, but that doesn't mean it's good.
I gotta pull this bad boy up. Issue number 40. Here we go. Oh, and my app crashed. Nice.
Oh, no.
The internet is super unstable today. I've had like 4 crashes so far.
Let's try that again. Take number 2.
Oh, look, it's an Ant-Man story. Yay!
Well, he's doing that. This is the day that Ant-Man failed. Written by Stan Lee and Larry Lieber. Art by Jack Kirby. Inked by Sol Brodsky. And lettered by Artie Simic.
Hell yeah. Released in November 1962. Woohoo! So, okay, here we are. I actually like this cover. It's kind of simple, but it's effective. I also just
this
like
is
the green.
another good cover.
Yeah, it's not bad.
And the story, I'm going to steal your thunder for a little bit here, Ryan, because I have to point this out. The story opens in the way I wish more Ant-Man stories would open. With Hank Pym putting a plastic bag over his head.
Wow. Where did that come from? Oh,
Well,
crap, Phil. Good God.
Well, yeah.
It's supposed to be a new gas mask, but it's totally just a plastic bag.
Oh,
Well, that is the character that we see, a character that we come to know as the hijacker, reaching down for the Ant-Man on top of a pair of on top of some shoes here with some ants. And yes, then the story does go into the plastic bag situation that Bill pointed out. So, yeah, that pretty good look for Hank. We then go into we learn how there is a new hijacker around, that keeps making off with armored trucks, carrying huge payrolls on them, and they find the cops afterwards and they don't remember any of it. So it's this weird memory event where the people that are the victims are losing their memory of the whole event somehow. So we meet Howard Mitchell, who is the owner of Mitchell, the armored trucks company, and he is complaining about the guards. He's like, "What kind of private guards are you? Another robbery, and have you caught the hijacker? No." And
yeah, petulant
and
fucker.
the cops are like, "But there's no clues." So, unknown to Howard Mitchell, though, we have ants listening in because they nosy little fuckers, and they report back to Ant-Man what they're hearing. So Hank decides he's gonna go see Howard Mitchell and try to help him out and see what's going on. So they talk. In this case, people can actually hear him in ant size still, and they talk about the armored truck robberies and how none of the guards remember the event at all after it happens.
I have to cut you off for a second there to point out the best panel in the entire comic. When
I thought you
Ant-Man...
already did that.
Well, that was the best story start, but the best panel is when Ant-Man launches himself out of the cannon, and almost hits a seagull, and the seagull's upside down, dodging him as he flies through the air.
That is really good. I just glossed over the catapult this time because the catapult
nothing
is
important
such
happens in the catapult, but I love that panel.
There's
a great
nothing
panel.
more dangerous than a flying ant. Right. I mean, they can take out a seagull so fast. I mean, just wow. There's seagulls falling out of the skies like flies, man. Right. Flying
They'll
ant
strip him to the
season.
bone in 2 minutes flat.
Yeah, during flying ant season. Wow. Just dead seagulls everywhere. Sorry. Not sorry.
So Howard Mitchell and Ant-Man come up with a plan where Ant-Man will already be there when the huge payoff is supposed to happen the next day. So he's supposed to be there in advance. So and Howard Mitchell's gonna announce in advance the shipment, so the hijacker will be certain to strike. And then Ant-Man's plan is to be there, waiting to trap the hijacker. And we get a hint, nudge, nudge. This is an important panel where Ant-Man comments on an interesting collection of primitive art that Howard Mitchell owns. And yeah. And then we move on to the next day. They're getting the payload ready. And the cop's like, oh, didn't know you'd be here. And now the odds are in our favor. But then all of a sudden, oh, what's going on? Ant-Man is hurting. Oh no, he might have appendicitis, so the ants have to carry him off.
Sorry. Not sorry.
So they carry on with
He has the most dramatic appendicitis of all time, too.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, a dangerous train, but also, definitely, how did they fall for this? Anyway, fucking hell. They carry it with the payload because Howard Mitchell's like, oh, I already paid so much money, we have to go through with this, blah, blah, blah. And then we see the hijacker's process happen, and everybody thought Ant-Man was gone, but whoa, it was all a trick. Ant-Man is actually here still. And so he flies out, and he essentially, he stops the hijacker's plan, and it doesn't matter how. Let's be honest. It doesn't matter how, but he pulls like cables out from the truck, which stops the process of what the hijacker's trying to do. And then it is revealed that whoa, oh my God, the hijacker is Howard Mitchell,
whose legs are broken, so he can't run away.
The one
character with a name that has been introduced in this comic. Of course, it's him.
Yeah, it was very see-through when you have already read previous entries in the order now.
They've been doing this trope for 20 years where the masked villain is the one new character that's been introduced.
And Ant-Man reveals that how he knew it was Howard Mitchell is because he spotted those Inca art pieces on the guy's desk. And learned that he spent times in the jungle. He spent time in the jungles of Peru, for he knew that the Indians, in his words, there have an ancient vapor, the inhaling of which causes a lapse of memory.
What a pain in the gas.
Oh,
sorry, not sorry. This is terrible.
So a 2-star story there from Ant-Man.
Yeah, this was 2 stars. This was boring, but not offensive.
Yeah, that covers it. That's not the hijacker's only appearance, though, as we'll next see him in Marvel 2-in-1 number 24 in the 70s. So, yay.
Wait, I think I've actually read that one. I
don't
remember that at all.
You probably have read that one. Yeah, I don't really think there's anything else to say. Pretty unnoteworthy issue.
No, I actually haven't hit this one yet.
Oh, wow.
This is still coming out. But I should point out the title for the return is perfect. Okay. It's literally, does anyone remember the hijacker?
No.
I love when they're self-aware like that. They're just like, yeah, no one remembers this guy. Except Roy Thomas, because he remembers all the old characters.
Yeah, because he was reading these fucking comics. The fuck? He's like, Does anyone remember the hijacker? Oh yeah, let's bring back Howard Mitchell. That guy was a yarn. Oh my god. Had that note, I think we just have to move on to Strange Tales number 106.
I thought Hijacker was going to be a one-time villain, actually. I'm kind of surprised they brought him back.
I keep surprising
And they
you
put him with
when they come back.
Yeah, they put him with Black Goliath, too. That's kind of
Oh,
disappointing.
fuck.
Black Goliath's actually good.
Oh, that's not gonna last, I guess. Well,
No.
not necessarily.
The actual title lasted 3 issues.
Yeah, fair.
Which is, I think it was 4, actually. But either way, it's too bad because it was actually good.
Oh, fuck. On to Strange Tales 106, the threat of the Thor twosome. Stan and Larry here on the right. We got Dick Ayers on art by himself this time. Whoa. And Jack Kirby's on cover, though. We have John Duffy on letters. And this is a December release. Whoa. Yeah. A December release. Oh, the last December release was the Thor. So, yeah, okay, that makes sense. I thought they gave us 2 Strange Tales in December for a second, but they didn't. So.
Nah. The last one would have been November, but I don't think we looked at the date for it.
No, I did. I just forgot. I got confused because of the Thor situation.
Yeah. Things will be less chronological going forward. We're going to start getting arcs and stuff that change up the order.
Yeah. So I'm going to let Bill cover this main event story today because I know that Bill has some interesting notes on this one and I couldn't care less about this issue. So
This one's interesting only because it starts the lead up to them bringing Captain America into the modern comics. Anyway, we open with the Human Torch doing an obstacle course that Reed has built for him in a field. And then we cut away to a guy dressed like a French painter, and he's come to the house to speak with the Human Torch. His name is Carl Zante, and he is an acrobat. And Johnny, meanwhile, is out and is still out at his obstacle course. He flies back, and he lands in a dirty old alley where he uncovers his civilian clothes and dresses like a civilian to walk back, and we see some kids on the other side of the fence talking about how he usually changes now and he must have just gotten back from his practice. And then he walks off thinking about how if anyone in town discovered he was the Human Torch, he'd never have a minute's privacy with his Human Torch costume carefully concealed inside an Fantastic Four branded attaché case, because he's good at concealing his identity. And so he goes to the house where he meets with Zante, and he's like, but how did he know who I was? And Sue's just like, Johnny, you're an idiot. Everyone knows you're the Human Torch. They just weren't saying anything because they wanted to give you your privacy. And so Zante reveals that he is the world's greatest acrobat, and he wants the Human Torch to team up with him in a new superhero team. And he tells the Human Torch how he's the best member of the Fantastic Four, and they'd never win any battles without him. We get a bit of a soft crossover here as they reference events that happen in the Fantastic Four comic, like Torch whirling Namor into an hurricane of water, or Torch blinding the Miracle Man, Torch fighting Doom. And he tries to sell Johnny on teaming up with him to form a better superhero team. But Johnny's not super interested. And so he starts telling Johnny how Reed takes all the money and how Johnny deserves a lot of that money. And Johnny's like, but Reed uses it for scientific research. But he convinces Johnny that he should get his own cut of the money. And so Johnny flies off. And he confronts Reed and demands to get paid. And they're like, we all take credit equally. We're not giving you more. And the money goes into research. And Johnny gets offended by that, and he leaves. And he's like, I'm making my own team. It's the Torrid Twosome. And so he calls Zante, and they make their own costumes. Zante gloats about how he's going to use the Human Torch for crime, and it'll be too late by the time Johnny realizes it. And so they get dressed up in their Torrid Twosome costumes, and they find out that Zante tells Johnny that a teller at the bank got locked in the vault, and it's time locked, so it can't be opened until tomorrow. And if Johnny doesn't burn through and free him, he will suffocate. And so Johnny's like, I'll get him. And he flames on and flies off to the bank, immediately burns a hole through the safe before he realizes that absolutely no one is panicking or trying to open the safe or doing anything you would do if a human being was trapped inside there. And he realizes then that there's no one in the safe. And Zante comes in and is like, yeah, I lied to you. And then he douses him in liquid asbestos and steals all the money and shoots him. And then he leaves, he acrobatically gets into his car and tries to drive away. But oh look, there's Ben holding the rear wheels off the ground, so he can't drive away. So he tries to open the door and get out, but the door won't open because an invisible Sue is holding the door shut. And then Reed completely wraps up the car, and they catch him, and they're like, we knew that this was all a setup, and so we came to help Johnny.
So they're working as a team finally.
Yes.
Wow.
Although not in their own book. It took Johnny's book to do it. And then Thing's going to beat him up. But just then Johnny comes staggering out with one of his arms not on fire. Because I guess when he gets wounded, he loses the flame-on power of that part of his body. And he's like, no. I have to take him. This is for me.
Oh, how Mel Gibson off him.
Yeah, so they let Zante go. And Johnny starts chasing him. Zante acrobats his way onto the roof, but Johnny tries to fly up after him, but he can't get his balance because his arm won't flame on. So he tries really hard, and then he can do it. And he heats up the ladder, and Zante falls off it, but he lands on the telephone wires and bounces clear and then goes down into the sewer to get away. But before he can get into the sewer, Johnny melts the pavement around him. So he sticks to the road and then can be caught by the police. And then he's like, well, I never really believed Zante, but I had to string him along to find out when he was after. And the rest of them are just like, oh, you don't have to explain it to us. And so Johnny throws the Torrid Twosome costume in the garbage, and they all walk off in the Fantastic Four costumes. And that's the end.
So answer me this. On the cover, it shows Mr. Flying Trapeze Dude and Johnny holding his arm, and one of his arms is not on fire. Okay.
Yeah.
Why isn't his uniform covering the arm? Why is the arm bare?
Because Jack Kirby and Dick Ayers didn't communicate well in design.
Oh, okay. Just wondering.
Because he had a green uniform on for the Torrid Twosome. Most likely they didn't want to give away the reveal that he joined a different team, so they left his arm bare.
Oh, of course.
Which is actually one of the smarter things, because one of my pet peeves is when comics give away the twist on the cover.
Yeah, because this was so complicated that it's a...
This isn't a convoluted one, but it's a thing they do a lot, especially in the modern day, where like the comic will end with like a surprise reveal of a bad guy or so. And so they'll put the bad guy on the cover to sell the book.
I think it would have been more interesting if he had a green costume on, because that really would have got people's attention.
Yeah. I mean, don't take this as me in any way defending this story. This story is terrible. It's a low 2-star story.
Uh-huh.
But I respect that they actually tried to treat it like it was something legit.
Uh-huh.
And the only good thing about this is Zante later dresses up like Captain America and fights someone, and it was a soft test for if people would buy a book with Captain America in it.
Because Captain America kills the bad guy by making him yawn himself to death.
Gotta be honest, I was zoned out for a lot of this issue.
That's alright, I was zoned out reading it too.
It wasn't that bad when I was reading it, but I just... Fuck, Strange Tale sucks.
Yeah, it's not bad, it's just really boring.
Honestly, this is one of the best issues so far. It's just fucking who cares?
Yeah, the stakes really didn't feel like they were there. I don't think anyone believed Johnny, even in the time, I don't think anyone believed Johnny was actually leaving the Fantastic Four.
I did give it 2 stars over 1, so like it's not the worst. So.
Yeah, it's nothing about this is bad. It's just dull. Like nothing matters in it.
Pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to really say otherwise about this issue, quite honestly.
A big fat who gives a crap.
Yeah, essentially.
That kind of describes this whole week's worth of comics.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's only been an hour 11 minutes, so this is crazily by far the shortest episode today.
Yeah, because they're like, other than The Impossible Man, none of the stories even really did anything that's worth discussing.
Well, it's just literally more of the same. Yeah. And I can see, like, as a kid in the 60s, I can see where you would probably like it because it was familiar, it was different, it was removed from the world you were living in, so there were things about it that, the early 60s were actually kind of a dark time. And, sure, the superheroes were great, and it was just the same old all the time. It was no different with the serials that were on TV in the 50s and 60s. It was always ended in a cliffhanger. The hero always found a way out of it. It was just same old all the time. And there was some comfort in that. So, I understand to a point, but there's nothing complicated about it. Like, there's nothing to really pique your interest.
Yeah, once they start actually advancing stories from month to month, things really start to improve. But at this point, like, the Fantastic Four is advancing stories, and Hulk is advancing stories. I don't like the stories with Hulk, but they are evolving. Like, the events of the previous issue have consequences.
There is continuity while also them completely changing the character all at once.
Yeah, they changed it all at once, but they still acknowledge what it was, and they tried to give a reason for it.
Yeah.
So they are serializing it, but the problem with a lot of these fillers, like the B-tier comics at this point, like Strange Tales, Ant-Man, and even Thor, although I like Thor, it's still, at this point, a filler comic. They don't really advance the story. It's just like this ended at the exact same place it started. None of this could have happened, and Johnny's life would be exactly the same.
It's who's the bad guy this week? The flavor of the month.
Yeah, it's Monster
Their
of the
flavor
Week
of the
type
month.
storytelling.
That's exactly what it is for all these B titles and all the anthology titles.
It just...
There's a reason Fantastic Four becomes the title, because it's like the first one that really, not only does it have continuity going on, but like it starts getting actual story arcs and crap, which will come to a pretty good 2-part story decently soon.
I mean, we're this is the end of the really bland stuff.
Yeah, because this is bland. It's just more of the same over and over and over again.
Going forward, what happened? Like, going forward, we've got Spider-Man starting in 2 issues.
Oh, that's supposed to make us excited?
Despite your curmudgeonliness, that one even more so than Fantastic Four, evolves fast
True,
at the start.
Yeah, Spider-Man sets a pretty high standard, really,
Better-
and
better
Iron Man's
villains.
pretty. Iron Man's pretty. Yes, exactly. Better villains.
Better villains, and it actually has a supporting cast.
Yeah, even if the
Which is-
supporting cast kind of sucks, but
Well, that's unfortunately Steve Ditko. Steve Ditko has a very dark view of people, and so just about every person in a Ditko, other than their hero, is unlikable.
Iron Man's also pretty good for a couple stories, but then kind of gets rough.
Iron
for a bit,
Man,
but-
yeah, Iron Man falls into the same trap of the other B stories, of
But
just
then-
kind of villain of the week.
Yeah, but the difference with Iron Man, just an opinion, okay, so don't crap on me. The difference with Iron Man was who Iron Man was as a regular person was more interesting than who Iron Man was as a superhero. Right? Whereas with all the others, their regular identity is just, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, but it takes a while for them to really start doing anything with that. Like, Iron Man gets really good when they start doing stuff with Tony.
Yeah.
But the first few Iron Man stories, like, there's 2 or 3 good ones right off the start. And then it just falls into the same cycle of Tony fights the villain of the week,
Yeah.
who's inevitably a communist that wanted to smash up the Stark Industry factory.
Lousy commies. Yeah, but
I mean, I'll give them this. They immediately set up to have a better premise for why he's constantly fighting commie villains.
okay.
Because he works for the arms industry of the United States.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it would make sense that an opposing force
Would want to stop him.
would want to undermine his operation.
Absolutely, and that does make
And
sense.
so it makes a lot more sense than, like, Giant Man is suddenly fighting a communist. Well, why is he fighting a communist? He just gets big and hangs around New York City.
Yeah, he's Giant Man.
Yeah. But
I know. I think as much as I'm not a big fan of Iron Man per se, I do think at least the man behind the mask is interesting. Johnny Torch or whatever the fuck his name is a yawner.
Good enough.
He's just tedious.
yeah, he has nothing likable about him.
Thor's secret identity is tedious.
Yeah, Thor becomes good when they abandon Don Blake.
Yeah.
That's why I've always said I don't like Don Blake. Thor's so much better when he's just a god.
Right.
Yeah,
and
like-
the Fantastic Four doesn't have a secret identity worth talking about. And
Yeah, and that works really well.
no, it doesn't.
That's
It's
part of what
boring,
made
too.
it so stupid when they tried to do the secret identity with Johnny Storm, well tying it to the Fantastic Four book, where he publicly is the Human Torch.
I think we're about at the point where they dropped that in Strange Tales too.
They did.
so-
This was the issue. That's why I mentioned that.
that was the
everyone-
issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he shows up and he's like, why the hell is this guy here looking for the Human Torch? And Sue's like, don't be an idiot. Everyone knows you're the Human Torch.
Yeah.
Yeah, guys. When I said I zoned out, I meant it.
Yeah, no, this is the issue where everyone's just like, yeah, he's the Human Torch. We just don't say anything because we want it to be nice.
Oh damn! I probably had some jokes about that, but whatever. It was fucking hilarious.
That's alright. I think I got it by pointing out that he hides his costume in a Fantastic Four labeled briefcase.
Ooh, clever. No one will ever think to look
Which I
there.
didn't notice until I was reading that issue. Or recapping that issue just now.
That's
And saw the 4 in the circle on the briefcase, and I'm like,
That's
oh my
incredible.
god, he thinks his secret identity is safe when he's got the team branding on the briefcase.
That's incredible.
On a side
Oh my
note,
God.
Dead by Daylight's got all kinds of new villains.
I don't know where to go with that.
Just saying.
This is not. I don't.
You know, they got
This isn't the gaming podcast.
no, but I just
It's more interesting than anything we read today.
yeah.
Well, yeah.
I just figured I'd throw that out there.
That's not hard to
They've
beat.
got new villains. Yeah, well, just so people know we're not a one-trick pony when it comes to comics. It's not just you two
Well, true.
fanboying about Marvel and me laughing at you, behind my hand. I mean, yeah.
You put a hand up. I thought it was way more obvious than that.
Okay, behind my middle finger. For all, just for the audience, for all my protesting, I don't mind Marvel that much. There are Marvel titles that I did like, just not many of them. Right? There were a lot more DC titles I liked than Marvel. Right? But there were DC titles I absolutely hated too. So,
And then Dan went into Image and became a Gen 13 mark. And,
oh, I was such a
and the
Gen
rest is
13
history.
mark. Oh my God, I really was. I know, seriously, a
What
Fairchild.
did I start?
Right, fell in love with her on the spot. Everybody's got to love a 6-foot ginger, right? That's why you watch Doctor Who.
Oh, I guess we teased.
But what if she was blue?
What if she? I don't care.
Dabba dee dabba die.
I don't care. I'm an equal
That
opportunity
was a
fanboy.
Nebula joke, Ryan.
Yeah, no, I'm an equal opportunity fanboy when it comes to stuff like that. All right.
Well, we teased what's to come in the next 2 episodes, but let's actually fully say what's to come in the next episode.
More of the
So
same.
we're gonna start off. Yeah, well, actually, next week's pretty good. Actually, we have some good ones in here.
Yeah.
We are starting off big, of course, with another Strange Tales issue number 107. But at least in this one, it's gonna be Johnny Storm versus the Monarch of the Sea, Namor, in a really forced battle.
I like this one. I'll be honest.
I don't like it as much as you. Fantastic Four number 12 is then next, as the Incredible Hulk ties over with Fantastic Four for the first time. So that's a really cool issue. We have
Yeah, that was a good one.
Best issue of the week. Journey in the Mystery number 90, a story for our Thor dose of the week. Incredible Hulk issue number 6, the last issue of the Incredible Hulk run. So, and my favorite full issue at least. We have Tales of Suspense issue number 39, the big story of the week, with the debut of Iron Man in the A story. Then we have Gundar in the D story, which barely counts, which is why we are doing a 7th entry next week with Tales to Astonish number 41. So we're going to end with some Ant-Man next week.
Yeah, Gundar is 5 pages long, and we will cover it in 2 minutes.
Yeah, so that's why we added an extra entry. Actually, we're going to have 2 weeks in a row here that have 7 entries, because there's tiny stories at different points, so yeah. Otherwise than that, for Route 616 coming next week, as soon as this weekend, we have the next episode of Cruise 616 coming to you guys. We haven't discussed personally when we're doing it between Saturday or Sunday, but it's coming this weekend. I meant to discuss that before we went live, but here we are.
I forgot we were doing that this weekend.
Yeah, we
You
decided that
forgot or
last weekend.
deliberately
And I
blocked
figured
it
no.
out of your memory?
it's been... We're professionals, guys. It's okay.
No, we're not.
Nothing we do is remotely professional.
Yeah, it's not like we're
Yeah,
getting
so
paid
just
for
for-
it, so.
A bit of insight besides the scenes, we, after last Route 616, like sometime last weekend or something, we discussed when we were doing the next episode of Crew 616, and we did decide we'd do it this weekend because another little bit of insight, I am now on vacation for a week, so since I have the time to do it, we figured we'd get this month's episode out of the way.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And because
And-
my memory is fantastic, I immediately forgot we were doing it this weekend.
So tune in tomorrow or Sunday for
Sunday.
the next episode of Crew 616, where we talk about Brightburn and we shit on Dan's hopes and dreams, and it'll be a fun time.
Yeah. Whatever.
If you enjoyed the first episode of Crew 616, we have plenty more coming. It's gonna be we're doing at least once a month, and in August we have a big one coming where we're gonna cover all the theatrically released Batman movies, and kind of just give our general thoughts on all of them and the best characters and best movies in general and blah blah blah. And if you like our interactions on those episodes where we kind of let loose and tease each other and go full into our dynamic of the group, then stay tuned because it should be fun. Last time, Dan and Bill picked on me because I didn't like the movie as much that we were covering last time, and
Fair
this
enough.
time we're gonna change that dynamic and pick on Dan. We're picking on Dan. I teamed up with Bill this time.
Sigh.
So it should be fun. Other than that, do we have anything else we want to say before we go away this time?
No, other than pointing out that the Crew 616 episode will be What If Superman, but shitty.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much.
Well, and we'll talk about that more when we cover it too, because there's definitely some more to go into on that topic. So.
Yes.
Anyways, I guess we will end this here. Definitely by far the shortest episode of this podcast so far, but that's not a terrible thing. I had a long day. So anyway, guys, if you're watching this on YouTube, give a like, subscribe, comment, and even share if you'd like to. All the other platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. If you're on Spotify, I've been creating polls and let us know which of the stories we covered this week was your favorite. Select an option in that poll.
Or
and anyway, guys,
if you like
it's
any
a
of
tough
them.
choice. It's a tough choice this week because they were all bad.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, let us know if you disagree with us. How's that?
yeah.
Yeah, I would actually really like to get a comment justifying one of these comics actually being good.
Where are they?
I would like to get
Where are the haters when
any
you need
comments.
them? Come on, people, get in there.
Give us
There
some
had to be
comments.
at
Give us
least
your
one
thoughts.
There has to be at least one person somewhere that thought that Thor story was good.
I mean, do we
Give us some-
really have to beg to be trolled? Come on. I mean, how fucking
Glad
hard
you won
is
the
it?
podcast for that reason.
Oh, yeah, I suppose that's fair. Come on, back me up on this, people. Help me troll these guys.
Yeah,
Yeah.
leave any comments. We will take any comments. We love any kind of feedback.
Oh
so
yeah,
feel free
it
to
doesn't
comment
have
down
to be
below.
positive.
And tell us. You can even shit on the podcast. It's okay. Tell us your thoughts on the podcast too. You can shit on us. We're
It
all right.
stinks. You guys suck. You picked the most
man.
boring comics to talk about. Oh my god, you're not funny. Who's the dumb old guy that keeps making stupid comments? I'm just saying.
On that note, we will see you all next week. And in the meantime, let us all polish Thor's hammer. We'll see you all later.
Manana.
He's polishing his own damn hammer. Fuck that.
Yeah, gas-powered stick. Right.
Whoa. We'll see you all for the episode of Crew 616 about Brightburn, and for next week's episode 8 of Crew 616. We'll see you all later.
Bye-bye.
Peace
See you
out.
later.
Bye-bye.